Sensei Matsumura Sokan was one of the finest martial artists in all of Okinawa. His reputation and renown was so great that the lordly and noble of the land would often give him gifts. These gifts were fine clothing, silk robes, home decor. One gift was an elaborate decorative fan with gold leaf inlaid on the blades. Matsumura was recognized almost everywhere he went, mostly by the lordly and noble who admired him, but often by the young men who wanted to train under him, who would harass him. His fame had even reached the ears of King Shoko. King Shoko wasn't a good king. He wasn't a bad king, but he just wasn't a good king. His reign was plagued by high taxes, an unruly populace, and a court that wanted to align itself more with Japan. King Shoko invited the Emperor of Japan to come to visit. The Emperor of Japan graciously agreed and brought with him a gift for King Shoko, a fine fighting bull. It was a lean, muscular, large bull with horns that stretched out and sharp tips on the ends. It was beautiful. King Shoko was honored and impressed, but also dismayed, because he had wanted to impress the Emperor of Japan, not be impressed by him. So at the urging of his advisors, King Shoko came up with a plan. I will have my finest warrior battle this bull to the death. He had one warrior in mind, Matsumura. Matsumura, not seeing a prudent way to decline this invitation, stood before the king. If it please the king, I have never fought an animal like this before. I would like 3 weeks to prepare for this battle. The king and the emperor agreed. The king thinking, Matsumura preparing means that the display will be even more elaborate and more fun for the populace who will settle down. That evening, Matsumura approached the bullkeeper, pulling behind him a cart. Seeing that the bullkeeper recognized him, they bowed to each other. And Matsumura asked, may I visit the bull? Of course, sensei. The bullkeeper remembered wanting to train with Matsumura at some point in his life. It's very important that nobody knows that I'm here, Matsumura says. Of course, sensei. Matsumura examined the bull in the pen and then asked, will you please restrain the bull? I would like to enter the pen, and it wouldn't be prudent for the two of us to do combat before our appointed time. Yes, sensei. So the bullkeeper began to corral the bull and restrain the bull, and Matsumura entered the bullkeeper's house, carrying luggage from his cart. A little while later, Matsumura emerged from the house wearing his full battle armor. He entered the pen, and the bull thrashed against his restraints, knocking against his corral, seeing Matsumura approach. Matsumura entered the pen and began to remove his armor. The bullkeeper, standing some distance off, looked at this display, wondering, what is he doing? Matsumura left nothing but his ratty, old, dirty training clothes on, approached the bull, who continued to snort and stomp. Matsumura then bowed to the bull and extracted from his waist belt a fan. The bullkeeper could see the moon glint off of the gold of the fan, but couldn't tell what Matsumura was doing. Short time later, the bull screamed in anger. The bullkeeper was confused. What is going on? Well, this ritual continued every night for 3 weeks in secret. During that 3 weeks, whispers among the populace began to grow about Matsumura and the bull, and the king could tell that his plan was beginning to work. The fateful day arrived. Matsumura, in his full armor, entered the arena. It was a newly built arena just for this occasion. On the other side of the arena was a corral with a bull in it, and the bullkeeper preparing the bull. Matsumura entered the arena, turned to the king and the emperor, and bowed. Then he began to remove his armor. The crowd gasped. What is he doing? Then Matsumoto turned to the bullkeeper, and signaled to have the bull released. The bull charged out of that pen right after Matsumoto in this angry rage. And Matsumoto stood there in the middle of the arena and bowed, and then deftly extracted a fan from his waist belt, opening it. The bull dug in its hooves and screeched to a halt right in front of Matsumoto. It drew in a breath and snorted. The bull's breath pushed Matsumoto's clothing away. Then the bull started to back away from Matsumoto. Then it turned and ran to its pen, looking back a few times to make sure it wasn't being pursued. Reaching its pen, it pressed itself against the back of the pen and shook. The bullkeeper, seeing the bull in the pen, not sure what to do, closed the pen. The crowd stood on their feet and cheered for Matsumoto, who had chased a bull into the pen. Matsumoto turned, faced the emperor and the king, and bowed. The king, seeing that the emperor was quite pleased with this display, seeing the crowd on their feet cheering, realized that despite the fact that neither combatant died in this death match, he couldn't punish Matsumoto for doing his plan. So he stood and he said, "I declare from this day forward, you shall be known as Bushi Matsumoto. For only a true warrior can defeat a bull without delivering a single blow." Matsumoto became advisor to the king and to his successors afterwards. Sometime later, in the marketplace, the bullkeeper recognized Bushi Matsumoto. He couldn't resist. He approached Matsumoto and said, "Sensei, Bushi, I must know, how did you do it?" Matsumoto let the faintest smile appear in his face, and he said, "Every night for 3 weeks, I let the bull watch me bow, see my fan, and get a whiff of how I smell. And then I drove a hairpin into the nose of that bull and caused it exquisite pain. Because you see, a warrior knows that the battle begins before it starts. And that's how you make Bushi from bull."